Korn is 20 years old this year, so I'd like to do like a little brief recap of each record,
Okay.
With some. So let's start for the first one, self-titled.
Blind. Just
Yeah,
Korn, self-titled.
Yeah.
I remember creating. We didn't know what we were. I remember being super like, we don't want to do solos. We don't want to do guitar squeals. Mm-hmm. Anything that was kind of that cliche, and anything that had to do with like an 80s way of playing guitar. No slides, no squeals, no dive bombs, and we made sure that this is. If we're going to create something new, we can't. We don't want to do any of this, and that comes back to like our influence and how we were influenced so much by Faith No More. I think, and that. There were very minimal guitar solos in their sound, and that comes back to that whole influence. But and Sepultura, the heavy grooves, and Rage Against the Machine, and Cypress Hill, and all these bands that we were listening to at the time, and we just kind of like, oh, we like this characteristic of this band, oh, we like this, oh, we like this, and we just kind of compiled it and created a tuning, with the 7-string sound, and so that was in the way that Ross kind of brought out that anger out of Jonathan was just so different, and this is something that we didn't really know what we were creating at the time, because it was just one of those magic, albums that defined an era.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We didn't know we were doing that. We were just making songs that we thought were aggressive and heavy, and we like.
And so then you get like Life is Peachy.
Yeah, that record was just so angry. we just came off the road after touring the first album for 18 months, and it was a long process. We come off the road. We went straight back in. We had maybe a few days off before we went and started to write again. And the first song that we wrote actually was the song Twist, which isn't a song, it's just kind of an intro. and that sort of, just that 40 seconds or 30 seconds of music kind of sets up for the whole rest of the record, because it's just kind of like that chaotic frustration. There's not really lyrics. He's just doing that metal scat thing, Jonathan, and it was done so quickly without too much thought.
Yeah,
it just came out just like,
it sounds raw.
This expression of like just kind of a frustrated, angry, and there's just I don't know. There's sort of there's not really a formula to it, and that was sort of the whole premise of that album.
Okay.
It was just fucking do it.
and so then you get like Follow the Leader after that one.
This is when we kind of like, the record company gave us a lot of money, and
it was a change, yeah.
And we changed. We went to a different studio. We tried. We experimented with a lot of sounds, a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and that. And you can hear it because we start to dip into a little more. We have a guest. On the record from Fred Durst to Ice Cube to the guy from Far Side, and some of those. Then the programming and then electronics started to kind of appear more in that album, and there was a sense of like, okay, we started to kind of understand at that point what we were doing in the studio, as far as like, okay, this is the verse and the chorus is the hook, and we're like, oh, okay. So this is, on the third album, this is when we started to kind of understand the formula of creating songs, and the bridge, and this is when we started to kind of understand that whole
And then you got Issues, which just came out like the year after.
Yeah, that was fun because we went to Atlanta and we recorded most of that in Atlanta, and we were partying really hard at night. But when we came back to the studio, it was about, the partying didn't come in because the producer at the time, Brendan O'Brien, he's like, don't fucking bring that party shit here. Like, if you guys want to go out and stay out all night, it's fine, but when we start work here, we work. And he really brought a great work ethic to us. And since we were in Atlanta, there was no distractions except for the all-night partying. Yeah. But as far as when we were there, there wasn't, our families weren't around. It was all about working and creating. Jonathan and him created all these amazing interludes, and that tied all the songs together. To me, that was the closest we come to a concept album, because there's an intro, there's interludes that tie the songs together, and there's an ending track that
And it's fun because you didn't have much time to do it at the time. It was so close to the previous one, time wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was fun. Like, it was like a deep record actually, And like,
I think this was musically where we really started to fine tune like our sound, and then this album was my favorite.
Yeah,
except the Paradigm Shift. Issues and the Paradigm Shift, those are my two favorite Korn albums.
Okay. And then you get Untouchables.
Yeah, Untouchables was one word I can think of is just scattered. People, we went to Phoenix, Arizona. We started the recording in Long Beach. We moved to Phoenix. I don't even know why. And we created some songs there, and then when we came back from LA, we went to Los Angeles and recorded more. Jonathan and the producer went to Vancouver to record. It was just like, there's no focus. The songs came out great, and sonically it's one of the best sounding albums that we have. Like, it just has a lot of low end and the high. It's just, and Jonathan started, the producer, Michael Beinhorn.
Yeah.
He really pushed Jonathan lyrically, to kind of just elaborate a little more and be more articulate with his lyrics. And he would make him re-sing a lot of stuff over and over again. And I actually had to recut all the guitars because I tracked all the guitars, me and Brian, and then I came back to the studio one day to hear rough mixes, and he said, "You're never going to believe," the producer said, "You're never going to believe this." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "We found a better guitar tone." And I'm like, why would you be looking for another guitar tone? The guitars are done. We didn't like it. He didn't like it, so he found another guitar tone, and I had to redo all the rhythm stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. He was beyond particular about the way things sounded. Did it make a better album or not? I don't know. But It was a long, drawn-out scatter process that I felt like it was never going to end.
And it's like the longest in the making ever.
The most expensive album. It's just excess in like the highest money. We spent so much money recording this album, and that's when record companies gave you lots of money.
And so obviously then you did like a raw record with like Take a Look in the Mirror and all that.
Yeah, that we did in Jonathan's garage. He built a garage at a studio at his house, and that was hard. It was like we were squeezing. At that point, we were like, everyone was. I don't really know if we were so much into it anymore. After the experience we just had, and after every album, it's like the tour, and I just think we were just kind of tired, because creatively it just felt like you know, we were trying to squeeze out every last bit of creativity out of each day. And some days we'd run into a brick wall, and it was just like, you know, our bass player wasn't showing up much, our drummer wasn't showing up much, and it was just pushing every day really hard just to get out finish a song. Or it was not my favorite record. There's some great songs on the record, like "Did My Time" is one of my favorite songs, and we still play that live because it just has a great energy to it. That was actually the first song that we recorded on that album, and then afterwards, it was just like, you know, Nas is gonna come sing on the what? Okay, you know.
Okay.
It was just kind of like whatever it takes to finish this thing, and you know.
And so then you get like a See You on the Other Side.
Yeah, then Brian departed, and it was like, okay, let's rethink and maybe change our sound a little bit. And we included some programming and used some different pop producers, and just to kind of like, I don't know, bring out some more melody from. And I needed that help because Brian was so great at writing melodies over the riffs and stuff, so it was really helpful for the time. But there was a lot of struggles, and one of those, you know, struggles that I would come out the other side and feel like, oh man, that's great. Like I find, you know, struggling with riffs and like not being really 100% sure of myself, but then after working with the producers and having them help me kind of define some of the you know, my questionable moments, and it turned out to be an okay album. There's some good songs on it.
Yeah, it's good. And I guess then like the most experimental one, I would say like the Untitled one.
Yeah, I love this album because I had.
It's not an easy one to digest and to
it's
get
not.
into. Yeah.
It kind of goes into like, this is more of like a sound design album, you know. And working with Atticus, he taught me a lot about how the beautiful thing about, you know, playing and is the inconsistency and the imperfections of my playing. He's like, no, that's good. I'm like, this is just sort of a scratchy. I was making it. This is a mistake, and he's like, no, it's cool. So we would kind of help. He would help me kind of made me feel comfortable that I'm not a great guitar player, but there's something great about that, you know, and make me feel like, you know, it's not about being perfect. It's about being human. And he made me understand that it's all part of the sound design. What's good for the album. And it was. I learned a lot making that record.
Yeah.
I mean, for like, he helped me with a lot of songs.
Self-portrait. The guy, he does an interview and you draw.
Oh my god.
I know the guy. And so after that, you had like the free Remember Who You Are.
I was that Remember Who You Are was like, you know, it was about really remembering sort of, you know, through the years it's sort of like we've kind of lost focus here, you know. We kind of need to be reminded of like these elements that really made this band what we are. So we kind of decided to go back and use Ross, and we got signed to Roadrunner at that point.
Yeah.
And it kind of was like, let's try to make a metal record. And I think it was a good experience, but I feel like we made, instead of stepping back, we really went too far back. And it wasn't so much of a push forward as we had hoped.
But you were coming from like a very experimental one before, so it makes sense as well.
It makes sense because I feel like we kind of had lost focus about, you know, what made the band great. And what made the band helped the band was using Ross. It was his techniques in the studio really pushing people to their limit. And we felt like we needed to kind of like go that direction again and have him, you know, perform an exorcist on us to bring out those qualities that we kind of felt like we lost.
And of course now with some distance it would have been fun to have like Ed back at that time actually. That would have been
yeah, actually Ross told me he went to his house and knocked on his door. Yeah. No answer.
Yeah. And so like the last one like of the recap is like obviously the Path of Totality.
Yeah, that's kind of when we said fuck it and just like let's just do what we want right now.
Yeah.
Let's just satisfy ourselves. Let's just make something that's completely obscure and experimental, and let's work with some different people and see where it goes. Yeah. And we honestly we're only going to work on 1 or 2 songs. We brought Sonny Skrillex in.
It was an EP initially, right?
Yeah, initially it was only supposed to be 2 or 3 songs, and we had so much fun with these new sounds and these big like wobbly, which was new. I didn't know it was called, but dubstep. I didn't know. You know, Jonathan introduced me to all this stuff, so it was just so fresh and so new, and it was like, yeah, we're taking a chance, but I mean, this is our 10th album. Fuck it, you know. This is fun. We're having fun doing it. We got to kind of go out on a limb here and challenge people, and kind of try to get them to open up their mind to what, and break that mold of a traditional. That's what we've always done. We tried to break the mold of. That's where the term new metal came from. It was we broke the mold of what a traditional metal band sounded like. So, kind of in that vein, we always kind of continue to do that, and that's what we did. Right. We said, "Fuck it, we're gonna do this because we like it." And a lot of people didn't like it, but I still love that album.